Hello, and welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you recognize the box. You've seen a few of these in my videos. And I still am impressed with that geometric design. If we flip it around, we'll see that logo now in the center of that design element. And there we have the first identifier. We'll give you the translations of that. The sleeve slides off. We flip it over and we'll see another identifier. Nice box. I have a number of these, nice sturdy construction. It's a spring-loaded top. So that opens up, and we see the pen. No identifiers inside, nice soft velvety material. Slide the pen out. It was in a plastic sleeve during shipment. We'll see it has a nice tag on it, which seems to be now a little bit more common with a couple of the pens I've gotten recently. We'll show you the translations of the tag. We'll slip that tag off, and your first impressions of the pen is it's beautiful. It's extremely beautiful. It's extremely nice. It's an interesting resin, interesting color. Keep going. Interesting pen. Like the clip design, nice simplistic clip, functional. We'll look more closely at the design, but pretty much flat. But we have a nice little finial to top, which has that logo design in it to a certain degree, a little bit stylized. The cap unscrews about 1 1/4 turns, so that's nice, and we'll see a little small section, but still very usable. We'll see those metal threads, which go into a liner inside the cap, which is very nice. The pen's designed to post, and it posts very deep and very securely. It's a relatively light pen, but that really looks impressive in the hand and feels good. So I'm going to go through a little adventure with this pen like I do with a lot of new pens. It's not the nib that it came with. The pen is inked. So we'll take a look at things and eventually put nib to paper, but I'm very impressed. And for the price, this is a phenomenal buy, in my opinion. Got it on Etsy. Here's the Etsy offering. It was delivered in less than 2 weeks. Interesting delivery. At Etsy, it said it was delivered to FedEx in China, but the label on it shows that it came from California. So another interesting way that they're shipping merchandise from China to US. Here we see the pen partially disassembled. The nib unit just unscrews from the section. It's a standard nib section. It screws into that metal collar, which then screws into that metal insert into the barrel. Generic converter, which works well. I think we need to bring out the LED X-ray to really show off the quality of this resin. All of the stripes in there have some pearlescence in it, not over the top, but just enough to give it a nice subtle dimension to it. I'm impressed. I haven't seen a resin like this before, at least not to my recollection. And it's a good color combination. As we look from the inside, we'll see that there are some transparent lines that are in that resin, which I didn't expect from looking at it from the outside. You can see how that cap liner is machined in place or held in place. We look inside, we'll see there's a screw holding that cap liner. It's not a machined ledge, it's a cap liner. It looks like a brass screw, so hopefully that'll hold up and be resistant to any corrosion from ink. But I fell in love with this resin, and that nice little logo finial at the top is a nice little touch. Obviously the screw holds that all together. Beautiful pen. We need to look at this current series of pens from Moonman. Of the S1 in the koi finish. Here's the N3, the M100, and the M600. You know, obviously, you know, around $15, a little bit over 20, around 30, and then mid 50s. So price increase. All of these are great pens. You know, the number 6 nib in the M600 makes it quite unique in that resin and the design. I enjoy these pens tremendously. You know, a Schmidt nib in the M100, a Moonman nib in the N3. But just, you know, the acrylics are just outstanding. You know, they're a visual pleasure as well as a writing pleasure. What more can you ask for? I'm very impressed with Moonman, and the fact that they've really expanded their design elements, added interesting features to these pens, just make them great. Posted they take on another interesting look. I mean, the M600 is a pen that I normally wouldn't post, but I just wanted to show it how it does post. The M100 actually posts shorter than the N3, even though both of them post very well, post very deeply, and have great balance, and including the S1. So, again, nice consistent designs, function on and focus on writing. So, enjoy. Close-up of the business end. We'll notice, obviously, the difference in the nib sizes. Sections are different designs, different use of metal components to reinforce and to provide a higher quality of pen. But, you know, very well done. And, you know, I'm amazed with the variety that Moonman is coming out with. They certainly have their designers working overtime and creating some unique writing instruments. Here we are with some size comparisons. The N3 is longer than both the 78G and the Pilot Metropolitan. It's about the same length as a Lamy Safari. It's a little bit girthier than the 78G and the Pilot Metropolitan. Let's compare them uncapped. Posted, they take on another dimension. Lamy Safari always seems to be the longest pen posted, and it posts fine. And weight distribution is pretty good. But the N3, I think, holds its own. And the 78G and Metropolitan are smaller pens. Let's take a look at the section. All these are relatively size similar to a number 5 nib. The interesting double B, which is really just a big stub on the 78G. And that medium replacement nib that I put into the N3. So the section here is a good size compared to these two. I was never a fan of the 78G. I thought it was too light and too small, and it didn't feel good with writing. Metropolitan has a little bit more weight to it, even though it still has a smaller section. And the Lamy Safari is its own unique entity with its section, triangular section. I never really was a fan of the Safari. I tried to use one as a everyday carry many years ago, and it didn't last long before I just didn't get writing satisfaction out of it. I removed the fine Moonman nib. I've written with it in other Moonman pens, and it's not my favorite nib, and I'm pretty certain it's consistent. So what I did was I put in a broad Knox number 5 nib. And this is, as you can see, the Moonman labeled insert. Here's a Delike nib unit, and they're the same. So you can easily swap Delike and Moonman nib assemblies. If we turn them over, obviously the feed's pretty much the same. And you can see that the Knox nib is a slightly bigger, the shoulders are bigger. It doesn't fit in as good, but I think it should write fine. So We're going to assemble the pen and ink it up and see how it does. And if it doesn't work okay, I have a Delight bent nib, which I'm very happy with. Here's just a medium generic number 5, and again, there's that original nib. So we're going to go right to a broad and see how it works. I thought we needed to dig down a little bit deeper into these 4 number 5 nibs that I considered putting into the pen. The first one there is the Moonman Extra Fine, which came with the pen. The Knox Broad, which I put in originally to try to replace it. A generic medium and a generic 1.1 millimeter stub, which I got from Chinese suppliers. Much to my amazement, these are more similar in dimensions than what I expected. I had to remove the Knox Broad nib because it didn't write consistently. The distance between the feed and the end of the nib was too great. I think the thickness of that nib probably had more to do with the fact that it didn't fit well, even though I thought the shoulder was bigger. So hopefully you'll find this aspect interesting of exploring these types of nibs. And a lot of people ask me about swapping nibs, and I have to admit it's as much of an art as a science. There's no guarantee that any nib you might swap in is going to work as you would like. So we'll give you some dimensions of the pen, you know, the length, uncapped and posted. I just think it's just nice to look at the pen. So this is a pen I would write with posted. You know, pretty quick to get the cap off. It posts very securely, good balance. So I talked about putting that broad Knox nib in here, but it just didn't fit the feed well enough, and it was not a consistent writer. So I put this medium generic number 5 nib in there. Yes, it's silver and it doesn't go with the gold trim, but I'm more concerned with how it writes, and so far we'll look at it and we'll judge. I like it. It does what I expect it to do. Lays down some nice ink, extremely smooth, extremely pleasurable on paper. Decided to throw this ink in it. I've been in a royal blue mood. And that ink works well in this pen, as I would have expected. So, again, I'm sorry if I'm gushing a lot. I actually had a dream about this pen last night, and I had to really get this video finished so I could start writing with it, because when I'm focused on the video, my focus is that. So, and this pen is just begging me to write with it and use it. And I should have probably written with the fine Moonman nib first, but I know what it writes like, and this is, in my view, 100 times better. As I slept on the review, I realized that I needed to show how the fine nib that comes with the pen writes. So here it is. It is definitely finer, about half the width of the medium nib that I used, but still pretty wet. And it's very smooth. So for those of you that are not going to be swapping nibs, those of you that like fine or maybe even extra fine nibs, this is certainly one that would fit the bill. It is extremely smooth. So I recommend it. And the rating with the original nib, I'm going to raise it to a 9.4. It's just good. Good flow. And with this nib, you can write on a lot of different paper. So kudos to Moonman. They did a good job, and I didn't have to swap the nib. But I did anyways because I wanted to get a wider, wetter nib. So now we have to rank this pen or rate this pen. I'm going to go with a 9.4. So people have asked about how I come up with the number. It's just kind of like a gut. That number comes to me when I think about this pen, how I feel writing with it, how much I enjoy the pen, and also in perspective to other pens. So if it was a little bit bigger in size, the section was a little bigger, and I've like a little flare out at the end, which this doesn't have, but it's part of the design. You know, someone I think decided to do that, because a lot of the other ones do have a flare out at the end. You know, this, you can hold this really anywhere, so that's always nice. So that's a plus. I had to swap out the nib. It's only offered in fine, so that cuts a few tenths off of the ranking or rating. The acrylic is a 10. I think they knocked it out of the ballpark on this acrylic. Again, a different look. I haven't seen this on any Chinese pens before, so that in itself adds a lot to, I think, my appreciation of this pen and enjoying writing with it. So we've reached the end of this video. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you've not tired of this exploration of Chinese pens, because it's far from over. And I'm certainly excited about all the incredible models that are coming out, and many of them I have no clue that they're coming out. I do read Frank Underwater's blog, but even some of the pens catch him by surprise. So may you have many great, phenomenal, invigorating pen experiences, putting ink on paper, putting your thoughts on paper, recording them for posterity or whatever that you would like to record them for. Just the mere thought of putting ink on paper, I think, is a creative process which stimulates thought in many ways. So this is the end of this video. So bye until the next video. It's a very, very nice ink nib combo. I like it.